Hey, what's up, YouTube? Brett and Bordy here. Today, we're going to break down the spear in New World and all the skills and abilities in both trees. Bordy, this is going to be a good one, man. The spear is shaping up to be one of the better weapons in New World.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It looks really strong, and yeah, let's jump in here, man. I'm ready to talk about it.
All right, so the zoner skill tree is the first one we're going to go into, and the first skill is Javelin. Throw your spear, dealing 125% weapon damage and staggering on hit. You get the upgrades of forceful impact, targets are knocked down on hit, refreshing precision, headshots reduce cooldowns by 50%, and then deadly distance, 2.5% damage per meter traveled, up to 100% max. Dude, that's a massive spear throw, 50 meters to get the most damage. But overall, I think it's a very strong passive here. So what do you think about the Javelin ability as the first ability in the spear?
I like it, man, and I like how you're rewarded for throwing, like hitting those clutch throws. Like, I mean, if you throw that thing so far, you get 100% maxed out. Like, I like that. I like that you're rewarded for those types of things. I also like that you're rewarded for hitting headshots with the cooldown reduction that just throws that to a 7.5 second cooldown for the Javelin throw. I think it's pretty good. 125% damage. It staggers people on hit. I like that. And then it knocks them down, which is some nice CC. And then there is a passive in the tree called Merciless Strength that we'll probably look at here in just a minute that does more damage against knockdown targets. So it's good, man. I like it so far.
Yeah, and it's important to note this is a dexterity weapon, but it does scale off of strength. So you get the 90% scale of dexterity and the 60% strength. So we'll kind of go into this later, why that's important for potentially being part of a tanking build. So here's the second ability in the spear skill tree, and that is Cyclone. Spear attacks that deal 100% weapon damage, pushes target back 3 meters, and applies a 50% slow for 30 seconds. Now, the upgrades to this is Invigorating Combo, restore 25% per hit, and then, of course, Strong Momentum. Grit is now active during the attack, making your attacks unstoppable. So we know Grit's a very powerful ability, but overall the Cyclone ability as a whole in the spear skill tree seems to be one that is going to synergize well with a lot of the other things we're going to look at later on in the video.
Yeah, absolutely. The Cyclone ability looks very, very strong with the pushback that again has some CC that works well with the entire zoner tree. You have that restore 25 stamina per hit. That's a lot of stamina, man. That's a fourth of your bar. You only get 100 stamina. There's really not a way to increase your stamina, your max stamina past 100. So a fourth of your stamina per hit is a lot. And we'll see here in a minute that synergizes really, really well with the key passive in this tree. And then you also have Grit activated during the attack. And we all know Grit is a very, very strong mechanic. So the Cyclone ability looks really good. So far, Javelin, Cyclone, we're off to a good start.
Yes, so the third one, and you'll start to see that a lot of these spear abilities have some CC tied in there, is Sweep. Sweep the target legs, dealing 75% of weapon damage and knocking them down. So the upgrades here are Tenacious Sweep. Grit is now active on the attack. And then the final one is Coup de Grace, which is you press your basic attack during the sweep to follow up with a powerful downward stab that does 125% of weapon damage. So here's another ability with Grit, Bordy, and another ability that has some CC or a debuff involved with it.
Absolutely. There's a ton of CC here in the zoner tree. It seems like you can just keep somebody on their back for a really long time and then do extra damage whenever the target's knocked down. So far, zoner tree looks really, really good, man. I like it a lot. Lots of CC, lots of ways to zone out your opponents.
Yes. So the key passive for the zoner tree is called Reserve Strength. Now, 25% of damage while stamina is full. This is an interesting key passive. There are, like you said, some of the passives in the skill tree that kind of reward you with stamina. You have Invigorating Crits, restore 20 stamina on a crit hit, and you'll see, like, again, in the Impaler tree, you'll get some bonuses to crit chance and everything like that. But overall, dude, this could be a very strong passive if you can manage to maybe equip some heavy armor and reduce your need to dodge or use stamina during combat.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is what I was talking about earlier with the Cyclone ability, with that Invigorating Combo, the second tier down in that ability that restores 25 stamina per hit. That's why that ability is so important, because if you keep your stamina full, you're going to be doing plus 25% damage while your stamina is full, which is a lot. It's important to note that your light and heavy attacks do not take away stamina while you're fighting. Only like dodge rolling during the fight is what takes away your stamina. And then whenever you sprint, your stamina doesn't regenerate. So if you're wearing heavy armor, like you said, Red, it'll be probably pretty easy to keep your stamina full as long as you're blocking and then using Cyclone. You don't have to dodge a lot while you're using heavy armor. I think it is possible to use light armor and dodge too. With the way you restore your stamina with the invigorating combo, then you have invigorating crits. If you have a high crit chance, you're going to be restoring 20 stamina on critical hits and then 25 stamina per hit with your invigorating combo. So I think it would be possible, but I think it's more probably synergizes better with heavy armor than light armor.
Yeah, and honestly, one of the interesting things about the spear is how both trees' passives tie into the other tree. So there isn't really going to be any wasted skill points when you're, depending on whatever build you're trying to do, whether it's DPS or PvP or tanking. You're going to have some spots where you see a lot of synergy, even if you are strictly kind of staying in the zoner tree and having to pick up a few passives in the Impaler tree. There's some interesting synergy here, Bordy. So why don't we hop over to the Impaler skill tree and look at the first ability here is Skewer. Rush forward and skewer your target, dealing 125% of weapon damage. Applies a bleed, which would be 10% of your weapon damage every second for 10 seconds. So the upgrades here, Bordy, on Impaler is Deadly Ambush, 20% damage against targets that have full health. Follow through, gain and power on crit hits, increasing damage by 20% for 10 seconds. And then Deep Wounds, bleed duration increased to 15 seconds. Now, Bordy, you love blades here. What do you think about the Impaler skill?
I like it a lot, man. I do like damage over time abilities, and so the skewer is right up my alley, man. I like it a lot, and there are some strong passives or some strong connections to this initial ability here as you move on down. The Deadly Ambush, the 20% damage against targets that have full health. We'll see here in just a second how that synergizes really well with some of the other abilities in the tree. Gaining power on critical hits, man. You're just going to be doing a lot of damage with this thing, dude. Empower on critical hits. We've already said that there's some other passives in this tree that give you some critical hit chance and then some other advantages to crit hits. So it looks like this is going to be kind of a dot build, kind of mixed with a crit build, right up my alley, man. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to use.
Yes, and as you kind of move over here to the next ability, Perforate, you're going to start to see how there's a nice little 3-skill combo going on that's going to deal a massive amount of damage. So Perforate is the next ability we have here. 3 quick piercing strikes that each deal 70% of weapon damage and apply rend, reducing the target's damage absorption by 5% for 10 seconds. Now, you have Rupturing Strike. Rends increase to 10% per strike against targets above 50% health. And Impactful Strikes, which is the final passive for this skill. The target is staggered if you successfully land all 3 strikes. So here you go, Bordy. The second part of our 3-part combo over here on the Impaler skill tree. Perforates has a very powerful debuff here in Rend.
Yeah, absolutely. Rend does seem very strong, but you can see where you have your skewer here that does 20, or where was it at? It does 20% damage against targets that have, or plus 20% damage against targets that have full health. And whenever you move over here to Perforate, you also have the Rend increases to 10% per strike against targets above 50% health. So you can go from your skewer right on into your Perforate and probably get both of those advantages. So you can get the extra damage and the extra bump to Rend to 10% per strike, which is pretty strong, man. So we're starting to see the combo form here.
Yes, sir. So why don't we go ahead and hop over to the third and final skill in the Impaler tree, and that is Vault Kick. Use your spear to vault forward and kick your target, dealing 75% weapon damage and applies a stun for 1.5 seconds. Now, here's an interesting note here, and we mentioned a little bit about the strength side of the spear. You can use a taunt gem on your weapon that will allow this to cause a 2-second taunt. Obviously, not a long enough taunt to justify maybe using the spear as your primary weapon as a tank, but it does have a lot of synergy as far as a back bar and having your ability to maintain your taunts even on your off weapon.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you use this kind of as an off-tank weapon, it would be pretty strong because you have your vault kick that applies that stun, but you also have the perforate, which applies the rend, and I think that's pretty strong. So you could go all-out Impaler tree to provide a little bit of extra damage with your dots, and then the perforate would be obviously, I think, the best thing you would want in your build for a tank. The perforate, and then maybe the vault kick that gives you the obviously the taunt gem capability.
Right, and there's tons of options really as a tank. You have your javelin, which could be a ranged pull. You have your sweep, which is, and your cyclone, which provide a lot of debuff. Also, some CC there. You know, really a great option for tanks for their back bar, especially since the weapon scales off of strength on the secondary stat. So the upgrades for Vault Kicker is followed. Relentless Blows. Gain in power after successful hits on targets below 50%, increasing damage by 20% for 5 seconds. And kind of like Bordy was kind of insinuating with the first two, you see full health, then you see above 50% health, and then you have Vault Kick, which is below 50% health, and you get a pretty decent damage buff there, 20%. The last passive on Vault Kick is Continuous Motion. Cooldowns for other spears abilities are reduced by 30% on successful hits. So a nice cap to your 3-hit combo, and it also reduces the cooldown of your first 2 combo pieces. So pretty awesome tree here in the Impaler skill tree. It's gonna be we're gonna be seeing a lot of dexterity builds with this as a DPS rotation for sure.
Yeah, I think so, man. I like the way that this Impaler build is laid out. It's almost, you almost don't want to mix and match your abilities with these two things, with the Zoner and the Impaler. I'm sure you could, and you could probably come up with some pretty creative combos. But at first look, just looking at the trees here, it looks like you would want to go all Impaler with as far as your active abilities go, and then maybe spec into some passives on the Zoner tree. But your skewer, your perforate into your Vault Kick just seem to synergize so well, and it seems to be a very good rotation that it's almost like that's what you would want to do, you know, without messing with the Zoner tree too much other than passive. So I like it, man. I think the Impaler tree, it looks like a ton of fun.
Yeah, and so here's the key passive for the Impaler tree, which I think, again, like we're saying, synergizes with the entire spear mastery tree because, you know, there are a lot of debuffs on these trees. So the final one is Exploited Weakness, 15% damage per debuff on target. Bordy, that is an insane amount of damage, even with just one debuff. This passive is very powerful, but when you start to think about the ways you could stack up debuffs in the spear tree, dude, that damage gets really crazy really quick.
Well, it is wild. Then you start to think about coupling this with some light armor when you get the plus 20% damage with a light armor buff as well. So now you have plus 15% damage per debuff. So you can scale that on up as you apply debuffs to your target. And then you have the 20% damage from your light armor. Man, you can start to stack quite a bit of damage with the spear, and it looks pretty good, man. This looks like this could be a pretty versatile weapon. You could use it in a lot of different scenarios, a lot of different situations, and I like it, man. It looks really strong. Probably one of the stronger weapons, in my opinion, that we've been over so far.
Yeah, and really the melee weapon, as far as DPS go, the lineup's looking pretty good, dude. You got rapier, spear, hatchet. So if you're into melee damage, dude, there's going to be a lot of options for you here. And I think the spear might be one of the, if not the most powerful ones. So let us know in the comments below, what weapons are you going to put with your spear? And, you know, what stat are you going to go with? Because I think there are some interesting reasons to go strength and potentially use a sword and shield or something with your tank build as well. So we appreciate your guys' support and continued viewership here on the channel. Thank you to all our Patreons, which we'll thank at the end of the video, as always. And, you know, Bordy, this weapon series is coming to a close. I don't think we have very many left. So looking forward to cleaning this thing out, dude. It's going to be great to have a period at the end of this, because we've been doing these weapon guides for quite some time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're almost done, man. I think we only have a couple more left, and then it'll be wrapped up.
Yep. So if you're interested in looking at these this information or messing with the skill trees, go over to New World Fans. We have all the skills up on the database, and we have a builder now as well, so you can actually actively fill out these mastery trees to your liking and create a build that you can show your friends. It'll create a link, and then you can just kind of link that to them and show them what dope spear build you've built and how it's way better than their dumb spear build, for sure. So again, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. We really appreciate it, and we'll see you in the next video.